Hello and welcome to my creative space. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Welcome to another DIY video. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe and join this creative squad. And this video is a long one, but it's full of Christmas DIYs. I hope you enjoy it. And now let's jump right into the video. this DIY, I'm going to be using one of these wire rings that I found at the Dollar Tree. It comes in a pack of 2, so I'm taking 1. And then I'm going to take this burlap ribbon and I'm going to remove the lace because I don't want it, and I couldn't find any of the plain burlap ribbon. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to glue the end down, and I'm going to glue it into the middle ring. And then after this, I'm going to start wrapping my ribbon around until I am done covering the whole ring up. Now I'm going to glue down the other end, and this is what it looks like once it's completed. Now I created this bow using the Dollar Tree ribbon, and I'm gonna cover the middle with this piece of jute rope. This bow is super easy to make, but I didn't show it in this video, but there will be a link in the description box if you're interested in watching how I create this bow, or this type of bow. And anyway, moving on, I just grabbed a piece of this jute rope and then I just tied in the middle, and I love how it looks now. Now I'm gonna take my bow and I'm going to glue that right in front of the where I glued down my 2 ends of the burlap ribbon, and I'm just gonna add hot glue to that and glue it into place. And then this jingle bell came with this really cute pine cones, but they were glued together with like a big glob of hot glue and it looked really ugly, so I removed that and took that off and then glued them back on there. Very extra step, but I don't know, it was bothering me. And then I created a small little bow with this jute rope that I have. And then now I'm gonna take my jingle bell and I'm going to glue it on the back of the wreath, and I just added hot glue. I also added a little piece of cardboard to cover that up just to make sure it was going to be secure into place. I didn't show it here, but I decided to add a piece of the burlap fabric that I have to hang my wreath, and this is what it looked like. Let me know what you think in the comments. For this DIY, I'm going to start by grabbing this foam sheet snowflakes, and also I'm going to be using this green garland ties. And I'm gonna take one of the snowflakes and I'm gonna start by trimming it down because this is the best way I found it to work, and it's already in the shape of a snowflake, so that's why I'm using this one. But anyway, moving on, once I trim those down to the size that I need them, I'm going to start by grabbing one of the ties and folding it in half and cutting that into the middle, and then I'm going to start gluing them down. The reason why I did this is because if I glue them down as they are, the little hairs are going to all be facing the same way, and I thought that was gonna look weird. I didn't like it how it looks, so I cut mine in half, and now all of them are facing out and they look a lot better if you ask me. Once the 6 longer pieces are glued down, I'm going to move on to start covering the smaller parts of this snowflake, and I'm going to use the same technique, cutting them to the size and then gluing them into place until I am done. This is what it looks like now, and as you can see, there's still some white spots that I can still see, so I'm gonna glue little extra pieces on those spots to cover the white on them. Now I'm going to take my burlap fabric that I've already had, but if you don't have this, you can get some of the burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm gonna cut a band off of this and I'm going to glue it to the back of my snowflake to be able to hang it and make it look super cute. So I'm going to use hot glue for that. Once that is down, I took this decoration from the Dollar Tree. It says Believe and I really like it. It originally had a little pine cone in the middle, but I had removed it and now I had to add it back because it was missing that. And then I'm just going to add hot glue to my words and then glue them down onto the snowflake. And here is the end result. I think it turned out super cute. Let me know what you think. This centerpiece, I'm going to be taking 2 of these wooden dowels. You can find them at the Dollar Tree. I've seen them there, but this one's I already had on hand. And now I'm gonna take this floral foam and I'm gonna cut 2 pieces to be able to sit my soon-to-be Christmas trees on them and be able to add my garland around it. Now that I have those standing, I'm gonna take my garland and just kidding, I'm gonna take it off the foam and I'm gonna add a little bit of hot glue, and then I'm going going to start wrapping around the garland, and when I get to the top, I'm going to glue that into place as well. Don't mind my garland falling on the floor. All right, now that I have my base, I'm gonna take these ties that are also made from garland, but they're a little bit smaller. I'm gonna take them, and so basically don't do this what I'm about to do now. Cut them in the middle and then wrap them around, because I did this and it happened the same thing that happened with the snowflake, where they all are facing one side and they look kind of weird, as you can see right there. So instead of doing that, cut them in half and then wrap them around. I did end up fixing this, but I didn't record it, so don't do this. Instead, do this. So these ones were towards the top, and I cut them to the size I need them. So the up you go, the smaller you want your little ties to be, because otherwise your Christmas tree is not gonna look like a Christmas tree. You need them to go be longer at the bottom and then smaller as you go up. So just take your strings and just cut them and then wrap them around, just like I did that one. For the centerpiece, I'm going to be using this box that I created in one of my past videos. I will leave the video in the description box if you're interested in knowing how I created this. But anyway, now I'm going to take this piece of foam board, not foam board, I'm sorry, floor foam, and I'm going to add hot glue in the middle. And then I'm going to add my Christmas tree right in the middle of the foam, and that's gonna help it stay on there and not be wobbling. And you can glue this down if you want to. I didn't, because I'm probably gonna be using this again for something else. So now I'm going to be taking my reindeer moss and I'm going to fill in my box with it. Okay, I didn't record this part, but the little bows that you see on the Christmas trees came from big Jingle Bell ornaments. I removed them from those because it's a DIY that you are gonna see at the end of this video. But anyway, now I'm taking these 3 white candles that I had on hand. They came from the Dollar Tree, but I would suggest that if you can find battery operated ones, use those, because these ones, the real ones, you're not gonna be able to light them up unless you want to burn down your whole centerpiece. But anyway, now I'm taking my red berry garland and I'm just going to start wrapping it around, making it look effortless and rustic. And the reason why mine is trimmed down is because I did try several ways, and this is what I found and liked more. And here is the end result. I think this turned out super cute. For this DIY, I'm going to start by taking these 3 big jingle bells and removing the little green piece that comes with them to decorate them. Once I'm done doing that, I'm taking this wooden star and taking my spackling and filling in the hole in this star. Once that is done, I'm taking this ivory color chalk paint that I have and I'm going to paint my star with it. To give it a distressed look, once it's dry, I mix this brown and black acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree and just start adding some strokes on it to make it look distressed. And once that is dry, I'm taking this sanding sheet and I'm gonna sand it down to give it a more distressed look. Now that my star is ready to go, I'm gonna take my hot glue and start gluing my pieces together. If you have a stronger glue, I would suggest you use it. I didn't, I forgot to buy it, so this is what I use for the purpose of this video. So I'm gonna start by gluing down my first big jingle bell and then adding glue to that jingle bell and then gluing down my second jingle bell. You can arrange them however you want. This is what I liked for mine. For the one at the top, I'm going to remove the hook that comes with the jingle bell to hang it, and I'm gonna add it on top. Once that is glued into place, I'm going to be taking these cups from the Dollar Tree and taking the bottom of it, and those are going to be my candle holder piece. And I'm also going to be glue it down, and I just added some hot glue, not a lot because I don't want the big glop of glue to come out and be able to notice it, but enough to glue it down into place, and added one of these Dollar Tree candles right on top, and it looks amazing. For candelabra number 2, I'm going to be taking 2 of the bottom of this cups, and I'm going to add some hot glue and then glue one of my jingle bells into it, and then taking the second one, and in this case I pushed the little hook down instead of trying to get it out, and just glue that into place, and then added my piece on top of it just like I did the other one, and voila! There you have it. It's a super easy and fun candelabra to make. I think it looks amazing and expensive. This was my favorite DIY. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite and which one you're going to be recreating. I love making these DIYs. For this DIY, I'm taking these 2 wall signs that look like ornaments, as well as these 2 papers that look like shiplap that I got from Hobby Lobby. They actually had a sale and it was buy 4 get them for $1, so whoop whoop for that good deal. Okay, now I'm going to remove the tag as well as this metal part on the ornament, and I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna start tracing them on my paper. And once that is done, I am going to start cutting this paper. I'm going to be using the back of this decoration because it's plain and it doesn't have anything on it. The other side had words with glitter and it was going to be bumpy, so this is why I'm using the back. And I'm just gonna add a lot of Mod Podge, and then I'm just going to apply my paper and make sure that there are no air bubbles in there. And there you have it. Now it's time to let it dry. Okay, so this one was a test. I found this adhesive spray a long time ago at the Dollar Tree, and I was honestly skeptical, which is why I kept it for so long and didn't do anything with it. But then I decided to use it with this and risk, you know, not working and getting all messy. But I tested it and it actually works. It's way easier. You just spray it on there and then you just put your paper and then you're done. So you don't have to be spreading your Mod Podge on it or nothing. So I like it, and I think I'm gonna keep using this, so yay for that. I am gonna say that the paper got a little bit wrinkly, but it was fine once it was dried. It didn't bother me at all, so I guess it's up to you if you want to test it. If you find it, I would pick it up if I was you. But yeah, there you have it. Okay, now it's time to glue back the metal parts on these ornament, and I'm gonna be using hot glue for that. Now is the time to decorate our ornament, and to give it some personality, I'm going to be using this fern, and I'm going to trim down 2 of the little branches. I was trying to figure out how I wanted it to sit on my ornament, and I end up deciding that I wanted it to hang down. I also took some of the burlap ribbon and created a bow, and I just tie it like you would tie your shoes, and I think it looks really cute. I also took some of this red ribbon that is also from the Dollar Tree, and I created a smaller version of the bigger one, and then I just took this little ribbon and squished it through my big bow, and now it's sitting in the middle, and I really like how it looks. And then once I had that figured out, I started gluing my pieces together. So I grabbed my 2 little branches and tied them together at the top, and then I added a little bit of glue to make sure that they were not going to become undone. And then I just started gluing my pieces down. I added some hot glue, and then I just glue it on the left side of my ornament. And then I just added some hot glue on top of that branch, and then I added my big bow. For my second ornament, I decided to decorate them a little different, and so I still grabbed 2 pieces of the 2 little branches, and I wrapped those together to help them stay in place. And then I just bent them down and I added some hot glue and then glued them on the top middle part. And I just also created another burlap ribbon and then glue it right in the middle. And I think it's looking great, but I decided to add a little cotton ball. So I grabbed one of these and I just add hot glue and glue it to the middle. I also have some of these leftover pieces from the fern, and so I just added them to give them a little bit more volume. And to be able to hang them, I just took some of this twine rope and then added it on there, and then they're ready to be hung. And this is what they turned out. I am in love with this DIY. I really love it. For this DIY, I'm taking these 2 Christmas jars that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna take off the lids off of them. I'm also gonna take some acetone and I'm going to start removing the little drawings that they have on them. Okay, so these look kind of frosted. I was expecting them to look clear, but I guess the acetone had an effect on this plastic, which is fine now. As you can also tell, the edges of where the drawings were sitting are still on there. So I wanted to cover that up because I didn't want to see that. And so I decided to take some of this burlap ribbon and I'm going to be gluing it right in the middle to cover up where the drawings were sitting previously. I will be adding the burlap ribbon to both of these jars the exact same way, and once they are completed, as you can see right now, I am going to take 2 of the glass candle holders and I'm going to use those to be the base of my jars, and I'm going to use hot glue to glue them into place. If you have a stronger glue, I would suggest you use it because it will give it more stability. And for this one, it's not a big deal because it is it fits right in the middle in that little indentation, but the second one doesn't, and this is the one that I would be worried about ungluing. So if you have a stronger glue, I will use it. To fill in the inside, I'm taking this Dollar Tree candle as well as this fern. I'm gonna take all the pieces apart from this fern, and then I am going to be sitting a piece of wood inside to help my candle sit a little higher. If you don't have this, then you could use floral foam or something else that you might already have on hand, or maybe your candle is tall enough and you don't need to be doing this, but this is what I did for mine. And then I'm just going to start adding my pieces of fern inside and just decorating it with that. For my second one, I also added the candle and the piece of wood in the middle, and to help fill in the surroundings of this, I used some Spanish moss. So I had this balls left over from a bag filled with pine cones, and they are scented. They smell really good, like fall, and so I just added these around it, and they smell delicious. I think it looks great. But you could also grab a little baggie of pine cones that the Dollar Tree sells, but this is what I already had, so this is what I use. Another great way to use these would be to keep the lids with these and fill them in with cookies. They would look so good on display. This was just an idea. This is how I use mine, and I love how these ones turn out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. For this pinecone Christmas tree, I am going to start by grabbing a piece of paper and then rolling it, creating a cone, and then I'm going to glue it together with hot glue. Once my paper cone is completed, I am going to grab my scissors and trim the bottom and get it as even as I can. To create my tree, I'm going to be using this bag of pine cones that I got from Hobby Lobby. This bag was a little pricey. It was around $8–9, and it was 50% off. That was with the discount. But I was thinking that you could easily recreate this with the little sacks of pine cones that the Dollar Tree has. I believe the pine cones are a little smaller than this, at least the ones that my local Dollar Tree store sells, but it is possible. I would try it if you really want to make this, I think it would work great. But anyway, moving on, I am going to start gluing my pine cones into place, and I am just going to be using hot glue. And if you do this, then I would suggest you put the pine cones close to each other, because you want to avoid having big gaps in between. I do have some gaps here, but I will be filling those in with the smaller pine cones. I do end up getting a couple of sacks of pine cones from the Dollar Tree to fill in these spaces. But yeah, let me know if you try this and if you use the Dollar Tree pine cones and how'd it go. Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so I decided to trim the top of this cone because I decided I was going to stick a bigger pine cone in the middle, just like that. So I do end up trimming that up and just sticking it in there and adding some hot glue to make sure it wasn't going to move. And then I fill in the spaces with these smaller pine cones. Many pine cones after, this is what it looks like. And now I'm taking this wooden plank. It comes in a pack of 6 from the Dollar Tree. I grabbed it and then I added a bunch of hot glue and I sawed my cone on it. And once it was sitting on it, I added a lot more glue to make sure that it wasn't going to move. And then after that, I took it outside and I grabbed this white spray paint and I just sprayed my pine cones with it. And then after that, and after it was dry, I flock it with this snow spray. I don't know if that's what it's called. I'm sorry if it isn't. But anyway, this is what it looks like once it's done. Well, it's not done yet, but this is what it looked like after that. I took these pieces of wood that I had left over from past projects and then I glued 3 together, and I do end up gluing 3 more at the bottom. I just didn't record it, but this is the end result. I think this looks really good. I do love this. Let me know what you think. For this DIY, I'm going to be using some fern, this wire wreath, and this one that is made out of, I don't even know what it's called, but this one that I am using right now. And I'm going to start by removing a few layers of this because this one was a little bit thicker for me. I wanted it to be a little bit smaller. And so I just remove some of them until I am happy with how wide it is. And once I have the size that I want it, I'm going to take my fern and I'm going to start removing each branch off of it. As you can see here, I end up removing a lot more of those sticks from this wreath, and now I am going to start gluing my pieces of fern on there, and I'm just going to start picking where I want them to go and then adding some hot glue to help them stay in place. So I'm gonna let you watch exactly what I did. Also, side note, I end up using 6 of the little bunches of fern just to cover up my whole wreath and give it the fullness that I was looking for. Once I cover the whole wreath with them, I'm going to start adding more just to fill in the spaces even more and make it look more fuller. This is what it looks like once I was done adding the fern. And now I'm going to take this skinnier and longer wooden planks and I'm gonna glue them together with hot glue. For my smaller wreath, I decided that this wire wreath was a little bit too wide for me, so I decided to get rid of the the inside ring, and I just used some pliers for that, and I just basically bend it until the pieces came off. Now I'm bending this back to help it get back into place, and I'm going to start adding the fern onto it. The bottom part of it, it has that little piece of wire. I'm going to start wrapping that around my wire wreath, and I'm gonna add some glue to help it stay in place. I do this until I cover the whole wreath completely. This is what it looks like with just one of those bunches of fern, and I wasn't happy. I think it needed more, so I had to run to the store again and grab some more, and I ended up using 2 of these little bunches of fern, and I love how it looks. Now I just fill in the spaces that needed the fern, and there you have it. I love this. For my wooden planks, I'm taking this wood stain from Walmart. I believe it was around $5, and I'm just gonna be using this to stain both of my wooden pieces. Once my wooden planks are dry, I'm taking this ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be turning them into little presents. So I cut a piece off, and then I just use hot glue and glue down my first piece down, and I just cut them a little bigger so I could glue the rest on the back and have that not show. And then I just take another piece and crisscross it on top of that original one that I glued down first, and then I do the exact same thing. Now I'm taking the same ribbon and creating a little bow, and I just tie it like you would tie your shoes. Once that little bow is completed, I'm gluing it down in the middle. This is what my presents look like. I love how they look. Now I'm taking a piece of this twine rope, and I'm going to be using this to hang it onto my wreath. So I just cut a big piece of this twine rope. Now I create a little knot there towards the little present, just like that. And then for this specific one, I decided to tie it on the wreath. I just made sure that my twine was not tying down the little pieces of fern, because I wanted it to look fluffy and not squished in. So I'm fluffing up the pieces right here to make sure that that's not happening. For my second one, I decided to do something a little different, and I still made the little knot there towards the gift, but then I decided to glue the piece of twine in place. I just thought that this was a better idea, so I just added some hot glue there, and now I'm going to let it dry. And here is the end result. I love how this one turned out. This is for sure one of my favorites. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this square wreath that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I already had this burlap fabric on hand, so I cut off some strips off of this to simulate some ribbon. You could use the Dollar Tree burlap ribbon that they already have, and it would be a lot less work than what I did. But anyway, moving on, I took one of my strips, and then I used some twine rope and just created some loops. I didn't do this in any specific way. I just kind of like did zigzag on this. As you can see, like there's some going diagonally, and then it comes right back. So this is what I did until I was done filling in all the spaces. Okay, this is what my wreath was looking like. I know it's not perfect. This is the first time I do this. And to make sure that my twine rope was not showing, I glued it to the back of my wreath, and some of the pieces of wire were still showing. So for that, I found the solution to just glue my burlap together to help cover up those spaces. Moving on, I'm going to be grabbing 5 of these garland ties that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna cut this in half. Okay, so I am not the best at explaining things, so the next step, I'm gonna let you watch what I did and just bear with me. Now that my two green pieces are completed, I'm going to glue those together, and then I'm going to pick whatever is going to be the back, and I'm going to be adding a lot of hot glue to make sure that they're going to stay glued together and that they're not going to come undone. This wooden sign came from Hobby Lobby. I paid a couple of dollars for it. It was 50% off, and I'm going to spray paint it white. I'm taking this bow that I created using the Dollar Tree ribbon, as well as this jingle bell that also came from the Dollar Tree, and gluing those together. Once they are glued together, I'm going to be taking that and gluing them to my greenery piece just with hot glue. Now it's time to add all my pieces together, and I'm going to start with my bottom piece. I'm going to add a piece of twine rope in between my greenery and the burlap ribbon that I created with this, and then I'm going to tie it on my wreath. You could glue this into place, but I feel like it was going to be wobbly, so I decided to tie it together. Now I'm taking my Merry Christmas sign, and this one I will be hot gluing into place. For this DIY, I'm taking this wall decor that looks like an ornament, and I'm going to remove the metal part from it. Now I'm going to finish tracing this circle so I can cut this part off. Once I have it traced, I just used my scissors and I was able to cut this off. So that's what I did with mine. You could use a crafting knife and it would work perfectly fine. Once I have that cut off, I will be taking this contact paper that honestly has seen better days, but as you can tell, I had it already on hand and it's a little bit wrinkly, but don't worry about it because I'm going to fix that in a second. This contact paper is from the Dollar Tree, and so I decided to peel off the decoration or sticker or whatever it has on it. This part is optional. I don't know, I just wanted to get rid of it. But anyway, moving on, I'm going to start by peeling off the contact paper. And so I saw this technique at I think her name is Bargain Bethany. She used this type of thing that looks like a blow dryer, but it's not a blow dryer, so I will find out what it's called and I will leave it in the description box. But she said that using that helps the contact paper to get more stretchy and be able to, I guess, put it on there a little bit smoother. So I used my blow dryer for that because I figured it would work the same way. So I just basically put it on top of it and then I started blowing on it, and then I just started tugging on the paper, and that's pretty much what I did, to be honest, until it was completely flat. You will see in a second that I will also be grabbing this, I don't know what this is called, but you could use like a ruler or something that would help you smooth this down. The technique does work, and I thought it was genius. I don't know, this is the first time that I've seen it and the first time that I've done it, so there is that. But this actually works. It does take a little bit of like pulling and flattening, but it does work. So this is all I'm going to be doing for now. Here is what it looks like after the process. As you can see, it does work. So if you want to try it, you can, if you hadn't seen this technique like I hadn't. But anyway, moving on. So I flipped it over and now I'm going to trim the edges so I could manage them better and be able to flatten the edges better. So I decided to glue them down because my contact paper wasn't very sticky, or it didn't want it to stick to this piece of cardboard or whatever material this is. So that's what I'm doing. I'm adding glue and then just pulling on it and tugging on it. And as you can see, my blow dryer was on because I wanted to warm up the contact paper to be able to tug on it and have it more smooth on the edges. Now I'm taking 5 of these wooden cubes and I'm going to be gluing those to the back of my circle, and those are going to be used as legs. I really like this. I think it turns out really cute and very affordable, and it looks like it's actually made out of wood if you ask me, but let me know what you think. For this DIY, I will be using these 2 glass bottles, and all I did was spray paint them white, and then after that I grabbed this snow spray from the Dollar Tree, and all I did was spraying my bottles. This DIY is very easy and simple, and it's just to give you an idea of what you can do with stuff you already have at home that you might not know what to do with. I think this turned out super cute, and it could be a really cute centerpiece. I also took some of these glittery leaves. I don't know what they're called, I'm sorry, but they're very glittery and they're silver, I'm sorry, and I just add them to my bottles. I also took some of these berries and just remove them or cut off the stems off the whole thing and just stick them in the bottle as well, and I think it ends up looking really cute and elegant. I really like how these turned out. For this DIY, I'm taking 2 of these clear little jars and I will spray paint them white. Once they are spray painted, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to trace a square on one of the sides. And now I'm going to cut off the square that I traced, and I would use a crafting knife, but I broke mine a few weeks ago and I haven't go buy a new one, so this is why I use this. And now I'm going to take 4 of these wooden rods and I'm going to measure them and take this I think they're called pruners, and it's like a gardening tool, and I'm going to cut them into the size I need them, and I will be doing this until I have 8 of these little sticks the same size. Now I'm taking some of this Dollar Tree fluorofoam and I'm going to cut it into the size to fit my little jar. And to make sure that it is not going to be moving around, I'm going to add some hot glue and glue it to my little jar. Now I'm grabbing 2 of these decoration pieces, and they come with a clip at the bottom, which I'm not going to need and I'm going to remove, but I thought they would look super cute for my little future deers. I also grabbed 2 of these head deer decorations, and I thought they were perfect for this project, so I started by grabbing a piece of a sanding sheet, and then I originally was just going to sand that part, but then when I grabbed it I realized that the glitter came off very easy and that it had peeled off for most of this head, so I decided to just go ahead and peel off the whole glitter, and honestly it looked better this way anyway, because otherwise the head would be glittery and the body would have been not. Now I'm taking both of my reindeer heads that are now glitter free, and I will be gluing them to my jars. I glued them to the lid of this jar. I just thought that that's where it would look better. Now I'm taking the legs of my reindeers, and you could also spray paint them whatever color you spray paint your reindeer with, but I decided to leave mine this natural color. I really liked how they looked, and for this I use hot glue, and I'm gonna tell you right now, if you have a stronger glue, I know I say this in all my videos, I promise you I'm going to get a stronger glue eventually, but I would use a stronger glue. Why? Because when you make this stand, the decoration, depending on what you use to decorate them with, could be very heavy, and that is going to break the legs very easily. So I try hot glue and I just place them in different places on the jar until they were even, and I was able to make it stand, as you can see right there. The first one was easier. I don't know what was wrong with the second one. I could not figure it out, so I struggle a little more. But anyway, moving on, I had these little greenery pieces decorations from the Jingle Bell project. If you hadn't seen that video, then you should watch it because it's a good one. But anyway, I'm taking those decorations that I took away from that, and I will be using them as my new decor pieces pieces for my reindeer. This was a very extra step. I just took the 2 little pine cones that this decoration came with, and I split them into the 2, and then I took the little jingle bells that actually came with the reindeer and glued them into place, and then I just trimmed the edges of these little bows to make them a little shorter. To cover up that middle part where I glued the reindeer into the jar, I'm going to take this piece of jute rope and I'm just going to measure it around, and then I'm just going to hot glue it in place. And now I'm taking one of these decorations and I will be gluing that into my reindeer, and I think it looks super cute and adorable. Now I'm taking my little decoration piece that will be going inside my reindeer, and I don't like the red part. It wouldn't go with the theme that I'm trying to go for, and so I remove it. And I actually had this other white little berries from a past project. If you've seen my videos, you will know which one it is, but I'm taking those little berries and I will be replacing the red ones with the white ones. And now that they are done, it's time to place them in the reindeers. And let me tell you, this was one of my favorite DIYs. I had so much fun making it, and I just love how they turned out. So I feel like the deers were perfect and I just ruined them, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. So I took this snow spray and I just decided to spray my deers with, and the reason why I did this was because I could still see the hot glue where I glue my legs, and I didn't like it, so I thought, oh well, let's just add this and it will look like hair. But I don't know if I like it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is what they turn out, and I really love how they look. I'm taking this mailbox that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I will be spray painting this white. And while that dries, I'm taking these 2 wood planks and I'm going to glue them together. I will be using hot glue for this, and I'm just gonna glue them to create a bigger square. Alright, to cover this, I'm going to use this paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. They had a sale when I bought them, and it was like 4 x 4, and get them for $1. So that's where I got it, and I just grab that, trace it, and then I am just going to cut it off, and then I will be using hot glue to glue that into place. Okay, so I already had this piece of wood. If you saw my past project, my watch jewelry holder, I used that same wood, so I already had mine on hand. So I just took that, cut it into the size I wanted it, and then I just spray painted them. But you could use that sign that I was using that says Mary. Those are from the Dollar Tree, and you could grab a couple of them and glue them together. You would need 3 for the height that I used for mine, but you could use just 1 and just make it a smaller mailbox situation. But anyway, so I just glue my piece of wood into my wooden plank, and it was still very wobbly, so I decided to take some nails and nail it into place. If you use the wooden sign or the sign from the Dollar Tree, this is the one I just showed you, I feel like you wouldn't have to do this because that material is not very heavy and it would be fine. But this is what I had to do for mine to be able to use it how I wanted to use it, and now it's perfectly fine now that I've nailed the pieces. Now I traced a square on my box to see exactly where I was going to glue my box into, and then I just added some hot glue and glued that into place. Now I'm taking some of this Christmas garland from the Dollar Tree, and I decided to glue my 2 pieces together. I don't know why, I just thought it would make a difference. But anyway, once they were glued together, I glued them to the top of my stick, my wooden stick. and I just added some hot glue on there, and then I just held it, and then I just wrapped my garland around. And once I was all the way to the bottom, I glued that piece as well. Okay, so for some reason this box wouldn't close now. I don't know why. So I decided to add some hot glue onto the sides and wait until it was dry, and then I was able to close it without any problem. Now I'm going to take this garland ties and I'm going to create a greenery piece. So I'm gonna let you watch what I did. I did the same thing on one of my past videos, so I'm gonna let you watch because it'll be better than if I explain it. Just so you know, I will be creating 2 of these, and I will be gluing those together to create one whole piece. Now I'm taking this burlap ribbon and I'm going to be using this to create a bow, and I will be cutting 3 pieces off of this. And I will start by taking one of the pieces, finding the middle of that piece, and then adding some hot glue in the middle, gluing my 2 ends to the middle, and then kind of pinch it together in the middle to create that pretty bow like. And then I am going to glue those pieces so they don't move around and the shape is hold. Now that I have my 3 pieces together, I'm going to hot glue them together, and I will just be stacking them, kind of crisscrossing them on top of each other. Okay, I want my box to say letters to Santa, and I couldn't find any pretty stickers at the Dollar Tree, so I already had this red paint, and so I just decided to hand paint it onto the box. Probably not the best work, but it works. And if I find better stickers, then I'll probably just replace those, but that's what it looked like once I was done. I'm trying to see how my green piece looks like, and I think I like it, so I am going to go ahead and grab some hot glue and glue my little bow into place. Okay, so I had this ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree, and honestly I wish it was black and white, but this is the only thing I had. I might replace it later, but anyway, so I decided it needed a little pop of something to give it more of a nicer look to my decoration. So I just cut 4 pieces and then glue the ends together, and then I just glue them onto my little decoration in between the greenery and my burlap ribbon. And this is what it looks like now. I think it looks a lot better. I really like how it turns out. Alright, so I have these big berries that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take 3 of them and I'm going to tie them together, and this will be added to my decoration that will go on top of the mailbox as well. And I also grabbed one of those decoration pieces that come with the clip on them, and I remove the pine cone and the cotton, and I'm gonna glue those into place into the middle of my bow. And now it's time to glue it into my mailbox, and for that, I'm gonna use a lot of hot glue on this. So I just place it on top and then push it down until it's a little bit dry so it doesn't fall off. And as my new
mailbox flag, I'm gonna take this plastic that I already had on hand that came from another project, and I'm gonna cut it into a flag. You could use paper or something else that you might already have on hand. And this is what my mailbox looks like. I love how this turned out. I think I'm gonna put it in my daughter's room, and you know she's gonna have a very long list for Christmas, so I think it's gonna be perfect for her. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. For our first DIY, here are the items that I'm going to be using, and the start of the show are these super cute burlap stockings that I found, and they are really cute, but they don't go with the colors that I'm going for to decorate for Christmas this year. So I am going to get rid of this plaid fabric that they come with, and for that I just literally used my scissors, and I was just very careful to not ruin my whole stocking. And yeah, I just gently, I know it seems very fast here, but it's because I fast forwarded, but I was very gentle with it. And at the end I still ripped one of the sides a little bit, but don't worry about it, I glued that back into place. And also I got rid of the snowflake that comes on these stockings, and they are glued on there, so I just try to pick as much as I could out of it. And don't worry about it because that will get covered later on. So for that I just turned it inside out, and there was still a little bit of fabric left in there, and I got rid of it. And that is what I'm talking about. That little piece came undone, so I just glued it back into place. And as you can see right here, I still have a little bit of red left on there. Don't worry about it right now. Now we're going to take this towel. It's a car towel, soft towel from the Dollar Tree, and that is going to be the new fabric that will go on the top of the stocking. And to make sure I cut enough, I just grabbed my stocking and kind of measured and decided how much I want to cover on the top of the stocking, and taking into account that part of it is going to be glued down as well. And then once I cut it, I basically just folded that in half, cut that in half, and that's going to cover 2 of the stockings. And now I'm gonna take one of the stockings and fold it inside out, and then I'm gonna add some hot glue. And as you can see, what is facing up right now, that is going to be the front of it. So pick your front and your back, and you want to glue the back to the back of the stocking basically. I really hope it makes sense, but if it didn't, just try it on there before you glue anything down, so you can see exactly where everything's gonna sit. And now I'm going to add some hot glue to my white fabric, only the white fabric, because that is what I want to seal together, not the stocking. Do not add anything to the stocking, because basically the part that we folded in from the stocking is going to get unfolded. As you can see right now, I'm unfolding it, and you don't want to glue down the fabric to the stocking because you won't be able to do this. But anyway, moving on. Now I decided to trim a little Christmas tree on paper, and then marked it on the fabric with the pencil, because I am not good at just winging it and then not coming out however I wanted to. So I just draw it on the fabric, and then I took some scissors and trim it down. And then this is going to be used on 3 of the stockings that I feel like the glue and the little fabric didn't come off as well as the other ones, so I'm going to be adding that onto my stocking to try and cover that up. And for that, I'm just going to add some glue to this white fabric, and then glue it right on top of the stocking. And I think it came out really great. I think it covered most of the mistakes, or not the mistakes, but the leftover glue and fabric left there. As you can see, here is what my stockings look like. I think they look so adorable. Now I had this polyfill already on hand, and I decided I wanted to stuff mine and then make them a little bit more poofy. And then for that, I just sealed them with some hot glue. You could sew these together, but why sew it when you can just hot glue it and be able to, you know, it looks really cute. And then just to give it a little touch, I added this tiny little bow to my little Christmas trees, and it's just from some jute rope that I already had on hand. For the other 3 stockings, I'm going to be using this greenery decorations that came on the jingle bells, the white jingle bells. If you haven't seen that video, then I will link it in the description box. But basically, I'm just taking those, and I'm adding some jute rope to this hanger that already comes with the stockings, and then gluing that
little decoration onto it. And then that's all I did with these, and I think they look so good. I love these little stockings. I'm in love with them. Anyways, moving on, I am going to grab this jute rope, and I am going to use these to hang my little cute and beautiful stockings. And once I have those in there, I decided to create little tassels to go on the ends of my cord, and they're pretty simple to make. I just basically tie some of it on my hand, and then once I had enough, wrap that and then hang that on the two ends of this rope, and then there you have them. The little tassels are done, and here is the end result. I am in love with this DIY. It's my favorite. All right, for this DIY, I am going to take this Christmas tree that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted to transform it into something pretty. So I got rid of all the little gems, and then I also got rid of the garland that comes on it, and I saved it because I don't know, I might use it for a future project. I don't know. But anyway, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know how I wanted to do this, which is why it ended up being a little Christmas tree display. But basically, I wanted it to look nice and expensive. I don't know if I accomplished that. You let me know in the comments down below. But I took some of the leftover fabric that I had from the little stockings, and then basically I added it to this Christmas tree because that other one looked very cheap. I mean, it was cheap, it was $1, but I wanted it to look nicer and I don't know, a little bit more expensive. And I've seen the furry little cute Christmas tree, so that's what I was trying to go for here. And so basically I just took that piece and measured and make sure that it was going to be enough to cover the bottom of this, and then I just added some hot glue and started gluing that together. And then once I had the whole piece of fabric glued together, I added some hot glue at the bottom and then started gluing that piece down so it would look nicer and not just like thrown in there. And then because the edges of this fabric were a little rough, I just kind of folded in to make sure that it was going to look even. And so I just basically added some hot glue, fold my fabric in, and then glued that down to the other piece of fabric right there, and then finish gluing the bottom together. And now I fold my little piece of fabric down, added some hot glue there in the middle of the plastic that divides the layers, and then basically just try to pinch the fabric together kind of evenly, and then add some hot glue where I thought it needed more glue. And I did the same thing for the 3 pieces, and at the top, instead of folding it down, I just left it like that, and then just added some hot glue and then try to pinch it evenly again on the top to kind of make it look nicer. And then after that, I took this piece of I guess this little sign, and then I added some contact paper on it to make it look nicer and like an actual piece of wood. So I'm gonna let you watch what I did here. It was very easy and simple, so I'm just gonna let you watch. Alright, to try to complete this Christmas tree, I just added some jute rope, and basically I just trimmed down the ring that this Christmas tree had at the bottom because I didn't think I needed it. And then I just added some jute rope on there with some hot glue and just wrapped it around until I thought it was enough. And then once I got to the bottom of this, I just added some extra rounds of it, and I just did that to help it stand. I hope it makes sense. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. I just added some extra at the bottom so it would be able to stand. And then I had these wooden blocks already on hand. I just glued them together and created a small planter for my two little Christmas tree. They come in a pack of two. I just spray painted one gold and the other one with some white paint that I had on hand. And then I took this gold Christmas tree and I just glued it on there. I don't know if this white Christmas tree looks good with all the other ones, but you let me know in the comments down below what you think of this DIY. I think at the end it looked really good, but I don't know. For this DIY, I'm taking this Dollar Tree frame that I found, and it's actually a little bigger than all of the frames that I have seen there, so yay for that. So basically I got rid of almost everything but the actual frame, because that is the only thing we are actually going to need. And now I'm taking this piece of foam board and I'm basically going to trace my frame on there, and I just kind of picked whatever was not dented, because you know this foam board is actually really easy to get dented. So I just picked whatever was the prettiest, I guess, if you will, and then I traced a little frame and then cut it, and just try to cut it a little bigger to make sure that it was gonna fit my frame and have some space to glue it. And now I'm taking these little candle holders that are also from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to be getting rid of the actual candle holder and just keeping the little Christmas trees. I was originally going to use this for a different project, but that's why I end up spray painting them a different color, but then decided to not go for that, and this is what I'm using. I also found this little truck candle holder and basically got rid of the candle holder as well and just keep the truck, and I just got rid of it with some pliers. And just be super careful if you decide to use this, because you can rip this. Metal is very sensitive and you don't want that. You want to keep the whole piece together. All right, now I'm taking my frame and I'm actually going to glue this into place, and as you will see right now, I am adding hot glue to the edges of the frame and not the actual bottom of the frame, because once I put my little foam board on there, I don't want the glue to get squished down all the way and get on the other side that is supposed to look pretty and nice. And I added some extra hot glue here, but you are also going to be putting down the little metal pieces to hold the piece together, but I don't want it to be moving around, which is why I added some hot glue. And now I'm taking my Christmas tree and my little truck and placing them on my frame, just making sure exactly where I want them to go before I add some hot glue. And now that I am happy, I am adding some hot glue and just gluing it down, and it worked and stayed pretty good. Just add enough glue to make sure it doesn't move around. As you can see, I only use one of these Christmas trees, and that is because this frame is a little too small and I couldn't fit both of them, so this is why I only used one. And now I'm taking these stickers that I was so happy to find, because my writing is horrible, so I need stickers. And basically I just placed them on my little frame, and I spell fresh cut trees. Originally I wanted it to spell farm fresh cut trees, but it doesn't fit, but I still love how this turns out. And as you can see, I was gonna try to curve it, but it didn't fit, so this is what I end up with, and I love this. I love how this looks. For this DIY, I'm taking these 3 square frames that I found. I love that they were already white and they kind of look a little bit distressed. And then to get rid of the inside, I just used my hammer and just hit it a couple of times, and I was able to get rid of the inside. Now for these project, I am going to be using this foam board to trace 2 letters, and that is going to be a J and a Y, because I am spelling joy. If you have wooden words letters, and you don't want to go through the hassle of having to trace your letters, then go for it. I was just trying to go for Dollar Tree items, and this is what I came up with. And once I figure out how big I wanted them, I just basically just started tracing them with my pencil, and yeah. After
after tracing the J and the Y, I am going to take this wire that I already had on hand. It came from a 3D wreath, and I just basically just adjusted and to the size that I needed it to be to fit in the little frame, and that is going to be the O. And then I just took my little crafting knife and then just started cutting my J and my Y. Here are my two letters and my word joy, I should say, already ready to go. All right, this fabric I already had it on hand, but you could use some ribbon from the Dollar Tree to cover these letters up, but this is what I already had. I bought it from Hobby Lobby last year, so that is what I went for. And I know I just said I was gonna use old Dollar Tree items, but when I have things that I already have on hand, I use them so I don't have to spend the money, and I just give you the idea. But anyway, I am going to cut a piece and then add some hot glue and then glue my letter down and just make sure that the piece of fabric is not wrinkly or anything, and then finish gluing my J down. And then after that, I am going to start trimming the edges because the fabric was a little bit too much and I needed it to be small enough to fit in the back of this little letter. And then I just started trimming it, and then try to measure before I glue anything down because I want my details on this letter to show. And so then after that, I just started adding some hot glue and gluing my pieces down. I really hope that what I'm saying it's making sense, and if not, then I apologize, but I'm sure you get the idea of what I'm trying to go for here. Here is my completed J, and my Y I did it off camera, but here is the O. So I had these pieces of fern left over from past projects, and I just decided to use them to cover up this ring. I love this color. I think it looks super good, and it's going with my farmhouse theme for this year. And I just added some hot glue, started gluing my pieces of fern on there, and then yeah, that's basically all I did with this. This is just an idea. This is just what I did with mine, but you could do so many things with this O and so many colors you can use. But yeah, I love how this one turns out. To add a detail to my O that is technically a wreath, I am going to create a bow using this burlap ribbon. And the way I created this bow was by tying it like you would tie your shoes. And once I was happy with the size of this bow, I just trim it, and then after that I hot glue it into place, and I think it looks amazing. It is the time to start putting all these pieces together. And so now I'm taking my J, and I want it to sit in the middle to kind of make it look like it's floating, but you know it's not floating, it's glued in there. But anyway, so I'm taking some hot glue and gluing it to the top first, and then I held it there a few seconds, and then I added more glue to the other two corners that are going to hold my J in place. And then I just held it in there for a few seconds to make sure it wasn't going to slide down, and give it a little bit of time to dry down. And then I turned it around and I reinforced with some more hot glue, and I did the exact same thing to my Y. I just did it off camera. And now for the O, I am going to add some hot glue to the top and the bottom of the frame and in the middle so it can hold my little wreath. And then I turned it around so you can see I added a lot of hot glue to the bottom because that is going to hold it in place. There is a few ways that you can arrange your frames. It will look great horizontally, or it could look great stacked together sideways like this, or you can separate the frames, or I don't know, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I decided for mine to go vertically because it was going to get hung on the wall, so that's what I did with mine. Keep in mind that these frames, or at least the ones I picked, were not cut straight, so they were a little bit crooked, but I love how this project turned out. I am in love with the DIY. Let me know which one's your favorite. For this DIY, I'm taking these blocks and I am going to create a frame with them. And to create it, I am going to be adding some hot glue and just making sure that I squish them enough so there's not gaps in between each of them. And I'm not to worry about them coming on glue because they will be glued down on top of this
foam board. And now I am going to be staining my blocks because I really wanted them to be a little bit darker. So this is the stain that I have, and I am going to be using that. And now for the foam board, I am going to be using this chalk paint to add to my foam board to create a sign, and then I am going to put those to the side to let them dry. And now I am going to take this wooden house that I found at a Dollar Tree. I didn't like the little drawings that it has on it, so I am going to be using the back of it, and for that I removed 2 of the windows. Well, I tried to remove 3 of them, but 1 of them broke, so good thing I saved 2 of them. And I also removed the ceiling, or the top of the ceiling, and then I just re-glue it on the back. For this part, it was not even, but don't worry about it because I end up fixing that in a second. All right, now I'm moving on to gluing my frame onto my foam board, and I just hot glue it into place. Here is where I decided to trim down my house because it was a little too tall, and so I just took my handsaw and cut off the piece that I didn't want it. And then for decoration, I just took 2 little pieces of fern that I had left over, and I created a little bow with burlap ribbon and some of the leftover fabric that I used for my joy word, and created a little decoration piece to go along with the other decorations that I created. And then I just added some hot glue to the back of my little house and glue it onto my frame. I love how this looks. I think it looks way better than what it did before. And to create the words Merry Christmas, I took these stencils that I got from the Dollar Tree. They didn't work the best, but they did the job. And if you have pretty handwriting, then you don't have to worry about this, but you know I don't. So I have to, you know, depend on stencils. But that is okay. I don't have a problem with that. But anyway, moving on, I just decided to add some Christmas drawings on my little frame. And now I couldn't find any black stickers at the Dollar Tree, and I didn't like this color to go on my house. I wanted to spell the Duran family established 2013, and so the solution for that was to paint these stickers black and then use them to spell what I wanted it to spell. And I really think it turns out really cute. Let me know what you think. And yeah, here is the end result. I love all the DIYs, and this is one of my favorite. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite DIY. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this little Christmas tree box that I got from the store, and I'm going to carefully remove the trees because that is what we are going to need. And then after that, I'm going to take 2 of these wooden planks that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to pick the sides that I'm going to use. And once I have decided what sides I'm going to use, which are the ones that don't have the dents in them, I am going to stain my little pieces of wood with this stain that I got from Walmart a while ago. And yeah, so all I'm gonna do is just stain it. I love this color, by the way, and you know, I love stain because it lasts forever. But anyway, now I got this little wreaths. There's Pinecone wreaths, and they're from the Dollar Tree, and I really love them. I think they're really pretty, and I'm just trying to bend them and adjust them to how I want them to go. And then I got this little candles that, by the way, one of them was broken. Well, not technically broken, but the little light bulb on top, as you can see right there, was like pushed down. But anyway, you know, moving on. Now I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm going to add some hot glue on there, and then I will glue my little Christmas tree on there. This is super easy, and probably don't do what I just did because you can probably burn yourself, but you know, I'm wild, I guess. But anyway, I am going to now place my little wreaths with the candle holders and the little fake candles on top, and that is all for this super easy and fast DIY. And here is a picture. I think that this DIY looks super cute. For this DIY, I'm gonna take 2 of these nutcrackers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the beard as well as the hair. They need to be bald. Yes, they do. but this was really easy to do. I just pull on it until I got rid of it. Okay, this was a trial and error thing. I thought I could just take this texture spray and just spray it and it would be done, but no, big fail. So it was looking all chunky and like really ugly, and like you couldn't even tell what it was anymore. So I decided to paint it white with this chalk paint that I had that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I just painted, and then after that I just let it dry. But yeah, it was really simple. I just took a brush, and if you have white spray paint, it would be way faster than this, but this is all I had, so that's what I had to work with. And then after it was dry, I added the texture spray, and it was way better. I like how these look. I think they look like cookies and cream soldiers. I don't know, let me know what you think, but I think they're super adorable. For this DIY, I'm going to take these pretend mason jars. They are heavy, and I do need them to be heavy for this project. So now I am going to remove the U cord and as well as the sticker, and I will recommend to try to get rid of the sticker very well, and you'll see why in a second. But once I got rid of the stickers, I am going to take this creamy paint, chalk paint that I have, and I am going to paint the top of this, and I am just gonna paint the top of it because I think the sides are fine. The color kind of match, so I'm not very concerned about that. But yeah, that is all I'm gonna do, just paint the top of these wooden mason jars. And the reason I suggested to get rid of the stickers is because I hope you can see that mason jar back there. They got wrinkly after the paint was dry, so I would say just, you know, remove the sticker completely. And what I'm doing right now is taking one of the wooden planks and tracing this Christmas tree on it. You could use one of the Christmas tree boxes that I got from like the past project, but I didn't have another one, so I had to do all this. And my little Christmas trees might not look perfect, and that is why. But anyway, now I'm taking this suction hooks that I got from the store, and I could swear I had 2 packages, which would have been 4 of them, but I could only find 1 package. I don't know what happened to the other one, but anyway, that's why I only end up making 2 of these. But anyway, moving on, I am going to add some hot glue to my little Christmas tree, and then I am going to glue it on this piece, and I'm just gonna hold it for a few seconds. And I don't know why I keep doing this. One of these days I'm gonna learn my lesson. I'm gonna burn so bad that I'm gonna be crying. But anyway, now moving on, I am going to add some hot glue to the hook, and I will be gluing that into place as well. And to add a little detail, I am going to create a little bow with this jute rope, and I will be gluing that on the tip of our Christmas tree. Yay! And here is a picture of what my stocking holders look like. For this DIY, I'm taking this wooden house from the Dollar Tree, and once I remove the tag, I am going to take this knife because I haven't got a crafting knife. I don't know why I haven't. And anyway, what I'm doing here is basically creating holes for the windows. Yay! Yes, I am going to create the holes because I want to see through them. And yeah, so I just took this knife, and probably not very safe, and thank God I didn't cut myself. But anyway, moving on, I am going to take this sanding sheet, and I'm going to sand it down because yes, the edges were rough, but it turned out very well at the end. So I just sanded very well until it looked kind of smooth, and there you have it. Now my windows are actual windows. What? And now I'm taking my wood stain. Yes, again, I am taking my wood stain, and I'm going to stain my house as well as the wooden planks I am going to use, which by the way, I needed 4 of them. I don't know why I only grabbed 3 of them, but anyway, I am going to be staining my house and my wooden planks, and yeah. And once my wooden pieces are dry, it's time to start putting this together. And as you can see there, I realized I needed 1 more piece, so this one is going to go on the bottom. And basically I just found the middle of this house and then glue my first piece down with hot glue. Yes, again with hot glue. And I just turned it over, and then I just added a bunch more hot glue, which is going to be in the inside. I'm not gonna see it, so I don't mind, but yeah, I just added a lot of hot glue and held it in place for a few seconds, and then move on. And now I am going to take my next piece of wood, and here soon I'm going to realize that I made some mistakes. Like here, I added glue on the edges when the one that was going to be facing at, or I guess at the bottom, the glue needed to be on the side. You see right there, like I added it and then my piece glued to the paper instead of to the wood, or I guess it did glue to the wood a little bit. Anyway, I shouldn't have put it there anyway, but now I'm going to reinforce with a lot of glue again. Okay, so here's where I realized I made the biggest mistake. So I created this holes for the windows because my idea was to put the candle inside and be able to see through the window like you're seeing through a house. And as you can see here, it didn't work out so well because I didn't measure my pieces to figure out that this box wasn't going to be big enough. But so what I ended up doing is just covering half of the window, or making half of the window to be inside of this box, like there, as you can see. And then as you can see there's holes that I'm gonna have to fix. And once I glue down my second piece, here's what I did to fix it. I took this wooden plank and then I just basically cut 2 pieces to cover up the holes. Yes, that's all I did. But anyway, now that they are glued in place, I'm going to stain them because they need to be the same color. Duh, Wendy. But anyway, now that they are stained, they are going to look fine. And it's also going to be sitting in the back, so I'm not gonna be able to see it anyway. And yeah, here is what it ended up looking, and I think it looks amazing. For this DIY, I'm taking 2 of these little wooden crates from the Dollar Tree, and those little metal circles that you see right there, if you watch my previous video, I remove them off of the metal Christmas trees. I will link the video down below so you can see it there. But anyway, I'm going to glue my 2 boxes together, and once they are glued, yes, you guessed it, I am going to stain it. What? But anyway, yes, I am going to stain it, and then after it's stained, I am going to take this wooden dowel that I already had on hand, and basically I am going to cut 2 pieces to create the candle holders. And so I just measure it with a ruler to make sure that they were going to be even. And then my metal pieces, I am going to try and measure figure out where each one is going to sit so I can glue down my wooden dowels. And for that, I am going to use hot glue. I'm going to take these pieces of floral foam that I already had on hand, and for now I'm just gonna leave them in the box because I will need them later. And now I'm taking this sled from the Dollar Tree. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, but for now I'm taking 2 pieces off of this, and that is the bottom, the little sticks that you can see, the brown sticks, the brown bottom sticks. You'll see what I mean. But anyway, I'm slowly and carefully removing this because it is very sensitive. And once I remove those 2 sticks that I need, I am going to remove the brown sticker because it came off anyway, so I decided to get rid of it anyway. Now for these 2 pieces, I am going to, I don't want to say break it, but technically it's broken, but basically kind of just bend it because I wanted to simulate the sled. So as you can see right there, it breaks very easy. And yeah, I just bent the front of it, and then for the back where it has the little holes, I got rid of that because I didn't think it was gonna look pretty with them. And then after that, I took this black chalkboard paint that I had from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint this sticks in, as well as those wooden blocks that are also from the Dollar Tree and I already had on hand, and I only end up using 4 of them. To give my sled more details, I end up taking these popsicle sticks that I got from the Dollar Tree, and basically I am going to cut 8 pieces the exact same way because they are kind of going to be the support pieces for the bigger blocks. It's more for detail, they're not really going to do anything, but as you can see right now, I'm just tracing them, and then I'm taking my scissors and cutting the popsicle sticks. And again, I'm going to be needing 8 of these, and then after I am done cutting them, I am going to paint them black, the exact same color the other wooden blocks are. And now I decided that I wanted to glue down my floral foam pieces so they are not moving around. It's time to put my pieces together, and I'm going to start by gluing down my bigger blocks, or I guess my wooden blocks, onto place, and I'm going to try and glue them evenly. Now that my 4 wooden blocks are glued together, I am going to start gluing my popsicle sticks, and I'm just going to be using hot glue for this, and I'm basically just gonna put 2 on each of these wooden blocks. And now I'm going to be doing the exact same thing to the other 3 wooden blocks. For my candle holder metal pieces, I end up spray painting them green so they could all be the same color, and then after that I started gluing them on my little box, and I just hot glued them into place. And now it's time to put the sled, or I guess sitting the box on top of the bottom of the sled, and I tried to put it, glue it into place evenly. I even took this ruler thinking that it was gonna be, perfect. But as you will see in a second, it did not work out the way I thought it was going to work out. And so I added some hot glue on my wooden pieces, and then I sat my box on top of it. But I don't know what happened. I guess I don't have a steady hand. I sure know that I don't have a steady hand, that they didn't end up working out this way. So I end up flipping it over and then removing the 2 pieces on the side, or one of the sides, and then adding hot glue to reinforce one of the sides, and then adding the other side when I was this way was way easier to see exactly where they were gonna go. I don't know why I didn't do it like this at the beginning, but anyway, now that it is glued into place, now it's time to decorate this. Okay, so originally I was gonna take this green garland and I was gonna use this to fill in the box, but I was almost done putting all these pieces in, and then I changed my mind. It's all about trial and error. So I decided to go for this other greenery piece that I found at the Dollar Tree. Sadly for me, they only had this one piece because I really like this color, and I don't know, it's really pretty. It has glitter but not that much, and it looks frosted. I don't know, I really love this, and I am going to go back to the store and I'm gonna look for more because I really love this. But anyway, it was really easy to just take them off this little metal stem or whatever, and it looked way better. I loved it even more. But I also had this golden berries, and I just also trim them down, or I guess the metal piece down, so I could start sticking them in the floral foam, and I just started arranging it, and I love this. I don't know, I think this looked very fancy if you ask me, but it was my favorite DIY. I don't know, just let me know which one was your favorite in the comments down below. I also took these candles, and these candles are also from the Dollar Tree, and I put them on there just to see how everything was going to look. And then I also had these little branches that are also from the Dollar Tree, and I took them, started trimming them down to the size that I need them to be, and I just started adding them, spreading them on this little box. I really like how this is looking. And here comes another problem. So I should have done this way before I started putting the greenery in here, but I decided to add Spanish moss to cover up the floral foam because I could see it and it didn't look pretty. I thought that the greenery that I was going to add was going to cover the floral foam, but it didn't. But it was okay. I would just say that if you end up doing this, do the Spanish moss before you put your stuff so you don't have to do double the work. And as a last detail, I added these golden branches that also came from the Dollar Tree. I just literally did the exact same thing. I just cut them off to the size I needed them to be, and then now I'm just going to adjust everything
This one was one of my favorite DIYs. I love how this one turned out. I really love it. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite DIY and which one you're going to be recreating. For this DIY, I'm taking 2 of these little glittery reindeers as well as these 2 soft white towels from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to start by removing the tags from both the reindeer and the towels. And then after I am done doing that, I'm going to start tracing my reindeer on whatever is going to be the back of my reindeer. So basically just make sure that whatever side of the towel you want to show in the front, you don't trace there. I hope that makes sense. And then I took a pencil and then I started tracing my reindeer, and then I left some space in between the reindeer and where I'm actually going to cut, because we will need that to glue that in place. I think I left like a centimeter or to 1.5 centimeters of space, and then I took my scissors and then I started cutting my fabric. I got so into it when I was cutting this reindeer that I didn't even realize that I tossed the actual reindeer out and kept the actual leftover fabric. And then I was like, this doesn't look like a reindeer at all. Did I messed up? And then I was like, oh, here it is. But anyway, moving on. Now I'm grabbing my foam board and I'm going to take my glittery reindeer, and I am going to start by tracing that on this piece of foam board. And then I'm gonna trace it in the exact same size, because we are going to need that in a second. And then after I am done tracing this, I took my crafting knife, and this one I got it from the Dollar Tree, but it's not the best crafting knife. It's a little flimsy. I end up having to add tape to be able to hold the little knife in place. But anyway, now I'm taking my glittery reindeer and my fabric and then adding it on top on whatever side I'm going to be using, and then I'm gonna flip it over, and then I'm gonna start adding hot glue on the edges, and I'm gonna do this in sections to make sure that, you know, the glue doesn't dry before I get there. And then that's all I'm gonna do until I finish. To cover up the back of this reindeer where I glued the fabric, here is where the foam board reindeer comes in handy. I am going to glue that to the back so I'm not able to see all that, and I am going to add some hot glue to half of this reindeer, and then I am going to take my foam board reindeer and place it on there, and then after that I am basically just going to glue the rest of it. With the leftover fabric from the reindeer, I am going to take that and cut a strip off of it, well, a few strips, because we are going to use that to cover up the part that shows the foam board right there on the edges of this reindeer to make it look nicer and cleaner and more expensive, if you will. And yeah, so for that I'm just gonna use hot glue and then take my strip and then start gluing it into place by sections. Okay, this little part gave me a little bit of trouble because when I was trying to glue the fabric on there, my fingers were a little bit too chubby for me to like push the fabric in there and like make it look nice. So I end up taking my scissors and then basically just managing the fabric with it. And this was after a few attempts, and I was like, Wendy, why don't you just take the scissors and, you know, manage that with that? But yeah, it ended up working. So just, you know, if you end up doing this, you might want to do something like that. But yeah, then after that I was able to glue that into place and then move on. And when I got to the end and it was time to trim the fabric, I left a little bit of space and then glue half that little piece in half and then glue that down. I thought it would help. I don't know, I think it made a difference, but I don't know. And then after that I just went back and like checked the edges to make sure that everything was glued down into place fine, and then whatever wasn't, I just added some more hot glue. Okay, so this is going to be an extra step and more so my mess up, but I thought I would include it because maybe it's helpful for somebody. So I needed
needed this to be gold, and for some reason I wasn't thinking and I got silver. So I ended up removing the glitter off of the antlers, and then I grabbed this paint that I thought it was gonna work, but it didn't, because it was too see-through. It was barely noticeable. So I ended up wiping that off and then taking my little reindeer outside. The problem with this is that I had already put the white fabric on there, which could have been really bad if I got paint on it. But then I just grabbed the paper and added some tape to the head, and then I just slowly and carefully spray painted it. And then after it was spray painted, I added the glittery paint, and then I added that on top for a little bit pop of color, and yeah, it worked. So yay! But it was a very unnecessary step if you ask me. But anyway, that was that. And then now for the next step, I'm taking this piece of wood that I already had on hand, and I am going to drill a hole to fit my little wooden dowel. Those wooden dowels you can find them at the Dollar Tree. And basically once I did that, I just added some hot glue in the hole and then put my dowel back in there, and then that was done. Where you see the line, that's where it's going to be cut, the piece of wood. And then after that, I took my gold spray paint and then spray painted that, and then I took my glue gun and glued that into place. And I also took a piece of the foam board that I cut, and I'm going to be using that for support. So as you can see now, I added some hot glue. Here is where I take the piece of foam board and then add a whole lot of glue, and then added that in there right in the middle just to help for stability. And here is how my fox fur reindeers turned out. For this DIY, I'm taking 3 of these wooden crates from the Dollar Tree, and as you can see, mine are gray because I recycled them from a past project. And so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna take my measuring tape and I'm going to figure out how tall I want this to be, and I end up deciding that my side pieces needed to be 2 feet tall. Okay, I might be cheating a little bit because this piece of wood is not from the Dollar Tree, but I did already had it on hand, and I purchased this on Lowe's, and it was like $1.60, like less than $2. So if you cut that in half, which I will because I need two feet tall pieces, it's $1. So yay! Okay, so I'm trying to decide how I want my little boxes to sit, and I decided that I wanted them to be a little bit tilted to the front so they can look like planters. And so I figure where I was going to add glue, which you will see in a second. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I could not figure it out for my life. I don't know, I think the glue was drying way too fast. I don't know, maybe I need something else to glue this in place. I mean, at the end it worked out, but as you can see there, I thought it was fine, and then it came off. So I had to remove the glue that was already on there, add some more, and then put it back on there again. And the way I did it is like I glue it on there diagonally so I could, I guess, use the corners as my guide, but you will see in a second. Like, I figure out where my next box was going to go, and then I figure out the distance between each box, and then after that, I don't know what was wrong with me. I swear it took me a long time to figure this out. I was getting frustrated, but yeah, I end up loving how this looks, but it did give me a little bit of trouble. So look, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm trying to glue it where there is no glue on the box. Oh my gosh, all I can do is laugh now. But at the time I was very frustrated because I was like, why can't I do this? As you can see, I'm adding even more glue there, and then I'm like, oh, it looks weird, like it doesn't look like the one at the bottom. So I took it off, and then I was like, oh, there's the glue, that's where it's supposed to be. So I put it on there, but then by the time I glue it there, the glue was dried, so I had to take it off again, remove the glue, and glue it again. See what I'm doing again? Like, you would think that I would learn my lesson on the second one, but I didn't. But anyway, now this next piece was a little bit of trouble again. I think that the problem was that the glue was drying way too fast, and so I added the glue to all the boxes and then put my second, the wood that is going to hold my boxes together, and then I was like, oh, this was easy. And then I set it down and look at that, the wood fell off. I was like, I cannot figure this out for my life. But anyway, so I just basically had to remove the dry glue on there, and then put some more glue on there, and then what it ended up working out, as you will see in a second, after me trying to figure out what was wrong, I just added glue to the top box first and then make sure that that one was safe, and then started adding glue to the other boxes, and then just added glue on the back of it because I could not figure it out. I don't know what was wrong with this wood. It's probably because it's wood and it's not supposed to be glue with hot glue, but again, I end up adding a lot of glue and it ended up working out, and I moved on. And now I took it outside and just spray painted with my white paint that I got from Walmart, and then after a few coats, it was ready and dry to go. I added some floral foam inside. This floral foam, as you can see, has seen better days. I recycle it from other projects because why not? But it is from the Dollar Tree. And so after I added that, I added some reindeer moss and I added it to all my little boxes. And then after that, I took this greenery right here, these ones. Oh my gosh, I was so happy. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned on my last video that I was so excited with that little frosted greenery. I found more, so I got a lot of it. I'm so excited. But anyway, so as you can see, I cut a few pieces and I started adding it to my boxes. And basically here is going to be your preference. I love how this turned out. I don't know, I just like this greenery so much, and I am so happy that the Dollar Tree carries this now, because I remember going last year and the greenery last year wasn't as good as this one. And now I took these white berries that I thought I was gonna like, but they were a little bit more yellow than what I wanted them to be, so I added them as well as that. Anyway, by the way, that white frosted branch is from Walmart and it was 99 cents. And anyway, I put the little white berries, and I didn't like them because they were yellow, or they looked yellow, maybe because of the box. I don't know what was wrong with them, but I ended up taking those off. And then as you can see now, like, I thought I was done, but then I was like, no, I don't like it, so I'm gonna take it off. And then I switched them for these gold ones that I already had on hand, and they are from the Dollar Tree, so I just added those in the middle, and then I liked it a lot more. Here is the end result. I think this turned out super cute and it looks very high-end. Let me know what you think. For this DIY, I stepped outside and I picked up a lot of twigs because those are going to be the start of this show. But yeah, let's move on. Alright, now I'm taking a piece of this jute rope and my pencil, and I'm going to tie it together, and that is going to be to help me create a circle. And the reason why is because, yes, I could have used a wire wreath from the Dollar Tree, but they are not big enough, or they were not big enough for me. I wanted it to be a little bit bigger, and that's why I did this, to help me guide when creating my wreath. And then once I had that my circle down, I started piling up my branches or my twigs, and no specific way, I just started adding them on top of each other. And then I was so happy I realized this here. I started adding my strings that are going to help me tie all the little branches in place. And yeah, I just felt like if I would have figured that out later, it would have been a little bit messy because they were already piled together. I don't know, but anyway, so I just added a bunch of strings all around my soon-to-be wreath, and yeah, and then I just continued to add the rest of the twigs. Once I was happy with the thickness of my wreath, I started tying all the jute rope that I added. I did end up adding some more jute rope where I thought I needed it. After that, I took this wire garland that has the gold berries on it, and I am going to use that to help me give my wreath a little bit more support. So I just started basically wrapping it around, and I wish I would have had one more of these because I didn't have enough, but you'll see in a second how I fix that. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna do, just tie it around my wreath. On the remainder part of this wreath that didn't get covered with the wire, I took my jute rope and basically just wrapped it around. And the reason why I didn't want to do this on the whole wreath is because the jute rope is a little bit lighter than the pieces of the twigs, and I did this on the side that my greenery is going to go, so it's going to get covered anyway, so I didn't mind that I had to wrap it a lot. And also I picked this side because this side was a little bit skinnier than the rest of it for some reason. But anyway, now I'm just getting rid of all the extra pieces of jute where I tied my branches together. And then I took my glue gun, my trusty glue gun, and added a lot of hot glue around my wreath. And I only did this to the part that is going to be the back of my wreath, and then once I was done, I flipped it over, and that's what is going to be the front of it. To decorate my wreath, I'm going to take this greenery from the Dollar Tree, and I was so happy I found this. There's this Dollar Tree that I usually don't go to, but I probably should go there because it's always stocked, and I don't know, my local one is always out of stuff. So now that I found it, I am going to keep going there for stuff for my DIYs, and I'm so excited. But anyway, so I'm taking the frosted fern, or the flocked fern, and I cut 2 pieces off because I don't know, I just thought that it would be better this way because I couldn't slide them down because the frosted on there is going to fall off. So I just took them off and then adjusted them on the wreath. And as you can see, I'm just trying to see how everything is going to go, and this is the way that my greenery is going to be placed on there. And I did the exact same thing on the other side just to make sure that it's going to look good. And then once that was done, I started gluing my pieces together. And so I'm going to start with this darker green one that is frosted and has a little bit of glitter. I just love this. I loved it so much. And then after that, I am going to just add a lot of hot glue to make sure that it's going to stay safe. And then I'm gonna take a piece of jute rope, and I'm also going to tie it under because this wreath is going to go outside on my front door, and you know, I want it to be weatherproof. And so now I'm going to take my fern and I'm going to glue that into place as well. And now I'm just going to let you watch because I'm going to be doing the exact same thing until I am done. Okay, this bow is being recycled from a past fall project, and this piece of fabric, I don't know if you remember, I think it was like 2 videos ago that I used this fabric. I already had it on hand, but I know that the Dollar Tree does sell ribbon now, and they are buffalo check, and then they also have these really cool bows in store. I just didn't pick one up because I already have one on hand. I will insert a picture right now. And now that my bow is ready to go, I'm going to take my wreath and I am going to glue this bow onto place, and I'm just going to add some hot glue on it and then just adjust it how I want this to sit. And yeah. As the last step, I am going to take a piece of jute rope and I am going to tie that on the back of it and create a hanger. I'm also going to be adding some hot glue to where I created the knot just to make sure that it doesn't come undone and it's going to be secured. And so yeah, that's all I did for mine. I hope this is helpful to you, and let me know what you think of this twig wreath. I love how it turns out. I loved it. It's one of my favorite DIYs. Okay, I might be cheating a little bit on this one again because I already had had this piece of wood on hand. It was a scrap of piece of wood that I had in my garage, and I just cut it to the size I needed it to be, and then I took it outside and tried to spray paint it, but then I realized that I was gonna use a lot of spray paint, and also I was not spraying it on there evenly anyway, so I only gave it one coat of it, and then I took it inside and used my white chalk paint that I got from Hobby Lobby. I wanted to add a quick note regarding the piece of wood. I know not everybody's gonna have a random piece of wood just laying around, but I wanted to let you know that you could also easily recreate this using a piece of foam board. I think it will look great. I've done it in so many of my other DIYs. Once I'm done painting it, I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna take 2 of these boxes of Christmas lights and add some batteries to them. Once I'm done doing that, I'm gonna put those to the side for now, and once my paint is completely dry, I'm gonna take this other piece of wood and I am going to start creating a shiplap effect using this marker, and I'm just going to create some lines. I took this really cute sign from the Dollar Tree that says Merry and Bright, which came perfect for this project, and then I'm going to take my black chalkboard paint from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint my words black. It is the time to put all our pieces together, and let me tell you, I am so proud of this sign. It came exactly how I envisioned it. I am so happy with this sign. I think it's so beautiful, and I think it looks very high-end. I don't know, you let me know in the comments down below. Now all I'm gonna do is just figure out exactly where my words are going to sit to make sure that they're going to be in the middle, and then I'm gonna add some hot glue to them and then glue them in place. By the way, fun fact, do you see my finger, how I have the band-aids on there? Yes, I had a little accident, and I blame the boxes for giving me so much trouble because I was trying to remove the glue off of them after so many attempts on gluing them into place, and I thought it was a great idea to grab my crafting knife and do that. And let me tell you, don't do it. You don't want to cut your finger, and if you happen to do it, just be careful, don't cut your finger like I did. But anyway, that was just, you know, accidents happen when you're crafting. But anyway, moving back to the tutorial or the DIY, I am just going to secure the Christmas lights in place with some hot glue. And honestly, that's all I'm gonna do now. I'm just adding some hot glue to all the Christmas lights, and I will be doing the exact same thing at the bottom. And I decided to leave the boxes on one on each side. I hope that makes sense. Like you can see here when I flipped it over, the boxes are on one on each side. I don't know if that's good or not, but that's what I decided to do for mine. And I also took this piece of jute rope to create a hanger, and I glued the ends to the back of it. And then I had this staple gun on hand, so I thought I would use it. And then I do own a hammer, but I don't know why I thought scissors were a great idea, which they didn't really do anything, but okay. And then these boxes were already glued in place, but then I decided to take them off because I wanted them closer to the edge, so it's easy for me to turn on and off my Christmas lights. So now I'm going to glue them back into place. I also added some hot glue to the Christmas light cord just to make sure that it wasn't going to be showing at all once I hang this on the wall. And then I glued my boxes in place, and they were good to go. Here is what the end result looks like. I love this sign. It's one of my favorites, like I said. Let me know in the comments down below which one is your favorite DIY. I took some inspiration from Pinterest, and I'm going to be taking this wooden dowel and this wooden plank. The wooden plank is from Hobby Lobby, but Dollar Tree also carries some wooden planks as I showed, and I just didn't want to cut that one because I already have this one, so that is what I'm going to be using. And then I'm going to be using these popsicle sticks that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to start gluing them onto the wooden dowel. I am trying to make them longer because the Christmas tree needs to be a little bit bigger at the bottom, and that's why I have to make or glue the popsicle sticks together. And I am just going to start gluing them on there randomly. I don't want it to look like they are meant to be there. I want them to look a little bit more organic and more rustic. And then as you can see right now, I cut in half one of the popsicle sticks, and then I cut a little bit off of it. I hope that makes sense, to make them shorter when I go to glue them. And then for the piece on the top, I just cut half of it and then kind of shaped it into a round shape, or like a curve, if that makes sense, that the popsicle sticks have. And then I am going to take my trusty stain, and I'm going going to stain my little tree. Now I had these for a while and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with them. They're supposed to be like those little scented fillers, I guess they're called. I don't remember what they're called, but I will you know what I'm talking about. And then I am going to take some of those and I'm going to start adding them to the tree because I do want this Christmas tree to look very rustic. And yeah, I just started picking the pieces that I liked and gluing them on there. And then once I had those, I also had these pieces left over of greenery from my past project on my last video. It came on the little Noel ornaments that I created on my last video. I will link it down below so you know what I'm talking about. And then I am going to start gluing those under randomly. I only have 6 of these, so I kind of just like divide them on 3 on each side, I believe I did. And I didn't put them next to each other. I kind of just like glued them on there randomly. And then I added some of the red berries that also came from the Dollar Tree. And then I had this little greenery piece also on hand that came in one of like the little bunches of greeneries that I purchased. I hope that makes sense. And I don't know, I just added it on there and I just think it looked really good. And this is what it ended up looking. It definitely came up looking very rustic and I really like it. For this DIY, I'm taking this wire 3D wreath that I found from the Dollar Tree, as well as this nautical rope, and I am going to start with the wreath and I'm going to remove the biggest ring on there, and then I'm removing the little metal pieces that are supposed to hold all the 4 pieces together, and they're very easy to remove. You just kind of bend them back and forth and then you're good. And then I also took these bells that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I want to say I had 12 in total. There's 4 on each pack of these, so that was good. And then I'm gonna remove everything off of them and take them outside and spray paint them with this paint. I will leave it link in the description box so you can see the color. And then I'm gonna take them inside once they're dry, and as you can see, I spray painted the front. Now where the part of this ring is welded, I kind of bend it back and forth to get rid of that and be able to start adding my bells. And then once I have all my bells in there, I kind of just took some tape and glued this back together. Here I would say tie it with something else because once I added hot glue on there, they kind of came apart. And yeah, so just make sure it's very secured. And then I spreaded my bells exactly where I want them to be, and then I added some hot glue to help them stay in place, which by the way did not end up working. Well, some of them did, but some of them didn't. But anyway, it was fine, you'll see. And then I'm taking the nautical rope and then adding some hot glue, and I started gluing it on there. I only did it at the beginning, and then I just started wrapping it around. And then once I got to the second bell, I just make sure that I cross my rope in front of the bell, or what is going to be the front of my wreath. And I did that to all of them to make sure that all my bells are covered in the front and they look nice and not like hot glue on there or anything. As you can see right there, I'm adding some glue and then the rope, and then keep wrapping around. As you can see here, 1 rope was almost enough, so lucky me, I had a little bit extra, so I just added that part of it and then just did the exact same thing I was doing until I was done. And once I had my wreath ready, I noticed that some of the bells didn't want to stay in place, so I flipped it around and then I grabbed some of the popsicle sticks, cut that in half, and then just glued that on there to help the bells stay in place. I only end up doing that for 2 of the bells, and here is the end result. This wreath is one of my favorites for sure. For this DIY, I'm taking 2 of the Dollar Tree candles as well as this crafting paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. When I purchased this, it was buy 4, get them for $1, so that was a very good deal. And then I just measured it on my candle and then just cut it big enough to cover what I wanted, the portion that I wanted to cover from my candle. You can cover the whole candle. I decided to only do a part of it, and I kind of did one higher than the other because I wanted it to look a little bit uneven, or I guess like not as perfect, if that makes sense. And then I am going to take this paper, and once I figure out how tall I want this to be, I will start gluing that under, and I will be using hot glue. I know, shocker, but yeah, I took some hot glue and then I just glue that under and just make sure that where I glued the 2 pieces together that they were even. And then once I had that in place, I took the rope to cover where the paper ends and make it look a little bit nicer and pretty. So I just wrapped it around until I thought it was enough and it looked good. And once I got to the end, I glued my two ends together or down on the candle, and then ignore that little bow on there. And then I took this wreath, this pinecone wreath that I had. I'm sure that if you've seen my past videos, you saw that wreath. They came from the Dollar Tree. I took two of those little pine cones, and then this greenery, I already had it on hand, and I want to say I got it from Hobby Lobby. It was like a string of it, but I could be wrong. But anyway, I'm taking two of those pieces, and then I am gluing them on there. And then I'm taking the two little pine cones as well, and I am going to be gluing those down. And that is all for this one. For the second one, I did almost the same, but I gave it a little jute rope bow, and I just took like 3 pieces of this jute rope and created the little bow. And then once I had my bow, I took one of the greenery pieces that I used on this other candle as well, and then glued that down, and then take my little bow, add some glue, and put it on top of that greenery. And then after I had that down, I took 2 of the little pine cones as well and glued those on there. And then I decided it needed a little bit of a pop of color, so I had these berries on hand, and I decided to glue them on the one with the bow. And then here is the end result. I love how these candles look. This DIY is super easy. I'm taking one of the Dollar Tree trays. This one's I love, and I'm going to be staining it with my stain that I already had. And then I'm going to take this white sand that looks like snow, and I'm going to add it to my little tray. This is going to be for my restroom. I wanted my restroom to be Christmassy, so the candles in this one are going to go there. And then I had this reindeer for a while that I could never figure out what to use it for, so I created this super cute tray, and I think it's super fun. You can even have your kids help you make them. I didn't, but it's a good idea. And then I had this little slate that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I adore, but could never figure out where to use it. And took two of the miniature trees, and I added them to my tray. And here is the end result. Super quick and easy rustic DIY. For this DIY, I'm taking my leftover bells, my 3 leftover bells from my earlier project, and then I am going to create a new hanger on these bells because the bells didn't have the hole big enough and my nautical rope wouldn't fit through them, so I had to make my new hanger. And then I just tied 2 knots on this end, and then once I had that down, I kind of glued down the end of the rope because I wanted it to look nice and not all spiky. And then after that, I measured how big I wanted or how long I wanted this to be, and then trim it down, and basically did the exact same thing for my second bell. For my third bell, I just cut a long strip and kind of measure it on there, and then added my bell to the other end, and then my leftover end just tied it into a knot. And then this was actually an accident because I was gonna trim that down, but then I was like, this could be the perfect hanger. Now if you're gonna be using this to hang it on your door, I would say that you need a bigger hanger for that, but anyway, I end up using that little piece and gluing it down. For this decoration, I am going to be using this frosted greenery from the Dollar Tree, and if you know, you know I love this, and if you see my other videos, I won't get tired of saying it. But anyway, so I cut all the branches off, and then I just started arranging them on my piece just to see how everything was going to go. And then I forgot to mention, but that I also had these pieces of fern that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I added them on there. It was only 3 pieces, but I think it was enough. But anyway, so now that I had all my pieces, I just started gluing them all together. You can tie them on there, but I just decided to hot glue them in place. Once my greenery is all glued together, I'm going to take these icicles that light up that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I thought they were super cool, and I'm going to light them up, and they come with batteries, so you just have to add the batteries on there. I removed the hanger they came with because I wanted to add a piece of the jute rope just to go along with the colors and everything. And then I trimmed the ends, and I just kind of tested it on there to see exactly where they needed to sit. As you can see, I'm trying both of them on there, and then I decided that I was going to tie one of the ends to the icicles, and I just made a couple of knots on there and cut off the extra piece of it and left the longer one because that is going to be glue onto my piece. And then once I did that to both of them, I had this bow, and I'm sure you've seen it in my other DIYs. I just want to reuse it and took a piece of this nautical rope, wrapped it around just to make it look like it's supposed to be part of it and make it look nicer. Now I am going to take my greenery and glue this to the back of my little decoration. I just make sure that it was glued to the back and everything was glued to the back so the front can be clean and nice. And then I took this pine cones that I had and a piece of the ute rope, and I added a knot to one of the ends, or I guess both of the ends, and then glued the pine cones on there just to make it into a one piece. And once I had that down, I took my little pine cones and put them on there and arrange them one higher than the other, and just kind of play with them to see exactly where I wanted them to go. And once I had that figured out, I glued those in place, and I just used the hot glue as well. And once those are down, I am going to glue my icicles on there as well, and I just again arrange one higher than the other, and voila, there you have it. And last but not least, the bow, and then I just placed it on top of it just to cover everything up there that is going on and make it look nice and clean. And that completes this DIY. I can tell you that this is one of my favorites. I think it turned out so good, and here is a picture with the little icicles light up. For this DIY, I will be using 2 packs of the wooden beads and this rope that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to start running them through the cord until I am completed. Now that I have all of them in the rope, I'm going to spray paint them white. Once my garland is completely dry, I will start arranging how I want my pine cones, my cotton, and my jingle bells to go. And I will be using the little cords that come with the jingle bells to tie all the pieces together. So I'm going to start with this jingle, and that one has the little hole to run the little cord through, which that one is not hard to do. But then the next one is the cotton ball, and for that one I had to basically put some glue down and then glue the rope with the hot glue to be able to keep it in place. And I did the same thing for the pine cone, and then I just start tying them around my rope. Once I am done applying all my pieces to my garland, I will be creating a tassel, and it is pretty simple, so I'm just gonna let you watch what I'm doing. I made 2 of this, and then I just tie them to the ends of my garland. And this is how it turned out, and I love this. For this DIY, I will be using 3 of these squared frames that I found, and I'm removing everything because I'm going to spray paint them white. Once my frames are completely dry, I am going to find the middle on the 3 frames and make sure that they are marked in the middle. And then once I do that, I will be grabbing my drill and I will be creating 2 holes on each frame. Now I'm going to be grabbing the backs of the frames, and I will be using this burlap fabric that I already had on hand. But if you don't have this fabric, you could use the burlap ribbon that the Dollar Tree sells. And I'm just going to cut this and make sure I have enough to cover the whole thing. And I'm just gonna grab glue, hot glue, and start gluing this into place. To make sure that my fabric is not all bulky on the corners, I will be cutting those off and then gluing the rest of the fabric into place. Moving on, I'm going to start tracing my words on this ribbon. I already had this red and gold glittery ribbon, but the Dollar Tree does carry ribbon now, so you could grab one of those. And I traced these words on paper, and now I'm going to start tracing them on my ribbon. And the H is going to be red and the O is going to be gold. And now that I have all my letters traced, I'm going to start cutting them. Once I have all of them cut, I'm going to start gluing them on my little frame. Now I'm grabbing my frames that already have the glass on them, and I'm gonna put my pieces in there. I just have to push them down. They actually fit pretty well, and here are all my 3 pieces. They look beautiful already, but I want to make them even look better. So I'm going to be using these wooden beads in this cord, and to be able to run them through without the cord getting undone, I added a little bit of hot glue. And now I'm going to be using red and green beads to put in between my frames. This is what my frames are looking like. I love them already, but I am going to be adding tassels to the 2 sides, and I am just going to be creating a knot to make sure that my cord doesn't move around. So I made a pretty thick knot on there, and now I'm gonna move on to creating a tassel. That my tassel is completed, I decided to add a couple of beads to the end of it before adding my tassel, and I'm just going to be tying that into place. And here is how my little frames turned out. I love them so much. For this DIY, I'm going to be using popsicle sticks, and I'm going to start by grabbing 2 and putting them together and using a 3rd one to glue those 2 into place. And I'm going to be creating 12 of these. Once I have my 12 completed, I'm going to start creating 2 squares. So I'm just going to glue 4 and 4 together. Once I have my 2 squares, the remaining 4 are going to be what makes this into a cube. So I'm going to start gluing those down into the corners of one of the squares, and then I will be gluing the second square on top of that. Now that my cube is completed, I will be using this super soft towel that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to start gluing this at the bottom. So one of the edges of the longer side of the fabric, I'm going to glue that down, and that's going to be the bottom of it. Now I'm going to flip it over and glue down the top of it, and I'm going to be folding it in to make sure it fits, as you can see right there. Now I'm going to be using 2 of these little towels that I got, and I'm going to be gluing those down, and for the bottom I'm going to be doing the exact same thing I did earlier. Alright, this little towel is a little too big, so I'm going to fold it in, and I'm gonna glue that into place to make it a little shorter, because I want the fold to be in the middle so I can cover it with the ribbon. I'm adding extra glue at the bottom to make sure that my fabric is completely secure and is not going to try to come off when I start to pull on it. Okay, having to use 2 pieces of fabric to accomplish this was a little bit hard, I'm not going to lie, but I think I did a pretty okay job. I hope you get the idea of what I'm trying to go for, but definitely in the future, if I do this again, I would do it differently. But anyway, I'm trimming down the excess fabric to make it look slimmer and better, and I'm just now gluing down the edges, and the extra fabric is going on the top is going to get folded in and glue into place to make sure that it stays in the middle, and so it gets covered with the ribbon that I will be using to cover that up. This is what my furry present is looking like. Now that is going to get covered with this beautiful ribbon that I found. I'm going to use this to make it look like a present now. Now I'm going to be using this greenery to create a decoration piece to go at the very top. Now that my decoration piece is completed, I will be gluing that on top, and that completes this gift. For this DIY, I also created a cube using popsicle sticks, and I used this rope to tie around my gift, and I just wrapped it around until I was happy with it. use this really pretty burlap ribbon I found to cover the popsicle sticks. I don't want to see the popsicle sticks, so I'm gonna use that to cover that. And side note, I didn't put ribbon on the side that is going to be the bottom of my gift. Now I'm creating a decoration piece for my little gift as well, and we'll be using this greenery and the tiny pine cones that I also found at the dollar store. Now all is left is to add glue and sit it on top of my gift, and this is what both of my gifts looks like. I love how these ones turned out. For this super cute sleigh that I'm making, I will be using 2 of these red hooks, and I'm going to be bending the back, or what's going to be the back of my sleigh, and it's pretty easy to do. The material is very bendable. Now that I did that, I am going to grab my foam board and I'm going to measure how big I want this slate to be. Once I figure that out, I am going to start marking that on my foam board, and I decided I wanted this to be 15 inches long and 10 inches wide. Once I have the bottom of my slate marked, I will be cutting this foam board with my little knife. For the sides of my sleigh, they're going to be 15 inches long and 9 inches tall. Now that I have my rectangle 15 by 9, I am going to start making it look like an actual sleigh. So I'm gonna let you watch what I did to accomplish that. This is the shape that I gave my sleigh, and now it's time to cut it. And just so you know, for the triangle part, which is the front, I end up cutting like another inch off because I wanted the front to be shorter than the back. Now I am moving to cutting the front and the back rectangles, and for the back it was 10 by 9 inches tall and the front was 10 by 7 or 8 inches tall. And here is all my 5 pieces, and this is what it looks like now. Now it's time to start gluing, and for that I'm going to be using hot glue. Once I finish gluing all my pieces together, it's time to paint. And for that, I'm going to be using this red and black paint. I want to make a more maroon color, and so I'm gonna use these two paints that I already had, and they came from the Dollar Tree as well. Once I'm happy with the color, I'm going to start painting. I forgot to show this part, but I also created a future seat for my sleigh. So I am going to be using brown and black paint to create a darker brown color, and I'm going to paint that for my seat. Now I also created this half a circles that are going to be at the bottom of my sleigh, and I created 4 of them, and I traced them and cut them with my knife, and they also will be painted brown. Once the pieces for my seat are dry, I'm going to start gluing those into place, and I am going to lay one of them down and trace it with a pencil to help me figure out where the glue is going to go. And once I figure that out, I put the front part of my seat down, and then I am going to reinforce with some hot glue on the corners. Now that I have that down, I am going to add glue to my top of the bench or my seat, and I will be gluing that into place as well. And then I will be flipping that over once it's completely dry to add some glue at the bottom of this little seat as well, and reinforce and make sure it's not gonna go anywhere. Now it's time to glue all my pieces together. I have marked my hooks, the 15 inches wide that my sleigh is, to help me figure out where these half a circles are going to go. Now that I figured that, I started gluing my half a circles into place, and I added hot glue to reinforce. I also used this popsicle sticks that I cut into rectangles and glued them behind the half a circles to help them stay maybe in place. I don't know, hopefully it works. But anyway, after I was done doing that, I also end up coloring the popsicle sticks the brown color with the leftover brown paint that I had. Now that my 2 bottom pieces are completed, I'm going to flip over my sleigh, and I'm going to grab these cubes that I already had on hand, and I'm going to start gluing them into place. Now that I have that glued down, I'm going to grab my pieces and put some hot glue on there, and then glue them into place. Once the glue is completely dry, I will reinforce with some more glue, and there you have, my 4 pieces are completed, and it seemed to hold pretty well. Now I'm gonna grab my burlap ribbon, and I'm going to put that around the bottom of my sleigh. I wish I had more because I wanted to put more on the top, and I will be getting more to complete the look, but for the sake of the video, this is what I end up doing only. Now I'm going to be creating a bow with this burlap ribbon. Once my bow is completed, I will be adding some greenery, and then once I'm happy with that, I will be gluing that into the front of my sleigh. And here is the end result. I think it turned out really cute. Please let me know in the comments down below which one of these DIYs you liked the most. Please don't forget to subscribe and give my video a thumbs up, and I will see you on my next DIY. Bye!